I can see that people who doesn't care about politics already left, and now I'm left with the policy people. No, just kidding. I can see that there are actually people who understand something about technology, so I need to be careful here. So hi everyone, I don't think that I have met many of you. I'm Salla, yes, I'm a politician, but I also worked on the dark side. So I worked for Mark Zuckerberg for 3 years. So I know something about big tech. And nowadays I'm trying to defend European companies, European competitiveness. And I will talk to you about 3 big things right now on the table. Europe's competitiveness, are we losing this game? To some extent, we already lost. The second thing is a comprehensive security approach, because that's something that in Finland we fully understand with our border with Russia, 1,300 kilometers. I'm a staff sergeant myself from the Finnish Air Force, and I used to serve throughout that border, so I know something about that as well. And then the third thing is defense, because there is war in Europe right now. So what are we actually doing? So those 2 things I would like to talk to you today. I just arrived from Brussels, and gloomy Brussels to gloomy Helsinki. But somehow in Helsinki there is this slush vibe right now when I arrived to the airport. And that's something that Finland has been pushing for years. One problem we have is that, we are part of the European Union, so actually tech regulation comes from Brussels and Strasbourg, and it's really difficult to defend this really innovative atmosphere when Brussels' effect has been regulation. And I completely disagree with Anu Bradford that Brussels' effect will happen all over the globe, because guys, Russia, China, and the United States will never regulate like we do. Because they actually want to enable risk for their companies. They actually want to build these big global tech companies. In Europe, we will not see that kind of companies. If we don't deregulate, if we don't rethink our risk financing, if we don't rethink our talent and our single market. So let me start with that. I was in the Commission working 6 years for the Vice President and President of the Commission. And it was 2015. I was sitting in a room and there were like 30, 40 male civil servants. Nothing against male civil servants. But they were in their 60s. And then they were starting to think like, oh my God, these American big bad tech companies are taking over all over Europe. What are we going to do, guys? And I asked like, okay, are you using Twitter yourself? Are you using Facebook? Back in the days, those were the big things. And they were like, no, I have never opened these applications. And then they were thinking how to regulate these applications and these companies. I was like, guys, you need to know what you are regulating. What is their business model? Are they selling data? I think there is one famous video of are we selling data? And it was like a different world than where these Silicon Valley companies are living. That being said, they build up regulation. After a decade from there, you have copyright, GDPR, Data Act, Data Governance Act, DSA, DMA, you name it, right? So you can be sure that you are regulated if you are doing any business in the European Union. If you want to grow to be big, welcome to the European Commission and we will split you. But we really want to have these big European tech companies, right? Something doesn't match here. And I remember there was this huge debate in Brussels 2014 around copyright. And then there was a Google's big lobbying campaign. They put millions of euros to that campaign. And they had like a big trucks out of the streets and saying that the copyright is not the right way to regulate. And then there was this one guy coming with an acoustic guitar to the European Parliament lobby and playing there, give me more money, give me more money. Which one won? Yeah, definitely the guy with the guitar. And even the commissioner responsible for tech regulation nowadays coming from Finland highly advocated this very important regulation back in the days. And it passed. We have the copyright regulation. Did this guy with the acoustic guitar got any more money from these companies? Not a single penny. Why? Because the way they regulated, the way they built this regulation didn't take into account the business model that these big companies have. And that's the problem we are having. We can build as many regulations as we want, but Google, Amazon, Apple, Meta will fight until the end that they don't have to pay. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. You need to understand how these companies are built and how the business model works if you want to regulate them. And also, this is not their main market. Their main market is in the United States. That's their home base. They can grow to be big there, and then they can take over the world. In Europe, good luck doing the same thing. If you're trying to build a company in the EU, you are facing with 27 different regulatory frameworks. On top of that, you have EU regulation, where then member states are trying to enforce that different ways. So, I mean, it's a mayhem of regulation. It's confusing even for the biggest companies. Think about being a small or mid-cap company. Then you have 23 different languages. And then also in some countries, you still have these notary systems. So it's not easy. And then you are really innovative, new entrepreneur, and you come to this and you tell me, why don't we just do it that we have one market? I can tell you guys, we have been trying to do that for 40 years. But when you go to one table and there is Ireland, there is Germany, there is Austria, there is Romania, and you try to agree on something, good luck. But that being said, that's the only way we could actually have real champions here if we harmonize this market. But it means that you need to ask the question from Prime Minister of Finland when he gives you the big speech about the capital markets union. We need more risk money, right? Floating around, cross borders. Definitely we do. But hey, Petteri Orpo, can we harmonize our insolvency law according to the French system? No, you don't touch our insolvency law in Finland, okay? Can we open the pension fund financing in Denmark for defense? There is a war in Europe. No. You don't touch our pension funds in Denmark, okay? Can we harmonize our taxation according to the Irish model? Because it works quite well for them, or Estonian model. Taxation is purely in the competence of member states. You don't touch our taxation. So how do you actually build a capital markets union if you cannot touch any of these like important things for member states? But that's Europe for you. Everyone is holding tight to their old rules and old ways of doing things. And then people come to me. Like today, I was boarding the plane, and they recognized me. And oh my God, why do we regulate like these big, small things in the European Union? Why don't we focus on defense? Why don't we focus on these big things? And I always turn to them and say, what did you do for that? Did you fight for the European Union to have more competence on defense or foreign policy? No. We have a treaty that focuses on trade, financing, agriculture, and fisheries. That's the EU for you. That's what European citizens wanted, right? If you want to have more power on defense, or if you want to have more power on foreign policy, we need to open the treaty and welcome back to the table with 27 different member states trying to agree on these big things. But that's European Union for you. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing this job, that I would love to fight for a European Union that actually works for our companies better. So I was with the Commission for 6 years, and I realized that, my God, this is going to a wrong direction. The answer from the European Union is always to regulate away the risk. But at the same time, 10 years ago approximately, Putin said that who will win the race on AI will win the race on the globe. And that's reality where we are living right now. Because if you cannot build these global companies when it comes to tech, you are really losing this game. And you know it better than I do what you need. You need data, money, and you need a market where you can actually then make it happen. And these are the things that we are lacking in the European Union. So we need to fight for this risk financing for sure. Then we need to fight for this one common market for sure. And then we need to fight for data. And that's something that people often ask me. Okay, you work for Mark Zuckerberg, you know, what is the stand for Meta on data? Well, data is something that without that company would not exist, right? And how these companies function from the United States or China, they come to Europe, they collect our data. I'm not talking about personal data. I'm talking about metadata, behavioral data, traffic data. And that's how they develop their technology, right? So we actually hand our data for them for free. And then at the same time, we have a huge trade fight on important stuff like agricultural products or anything else. That doesn't make any sense, right? So one thing that we need to make sure now is that European data is for our companies, first and foremost. And then we need to put price to our data. That would be my claim, that what we need to do right now. And then we need to make sure that this data flows freely across borders here in the European Union, because our companies need that to develop AI technologies and train technologies there. China. Look at TikTok and Huawei are doing. TikTok is a propaganda machine that needs to hand their data to Chinese authoritarian regime, who is helping Putin to win the war in Ukraine. So if you open your TikTok, you literally in that second start giving behavioral data to Chinese Communist Party to develop their propaganda machine. And you help Putin win the war in Ukraine. Who thinks that? Not everyone, at least in Europe, because so many people are still using this application. I would never, ever open that app because I don't want Putin to win. But people don't really think these consequences that you have in a global race when you use different kind of technologies. Look at what Huawei is doing here. Same thing, collecting data, taking it back to China. All these companies who are giving you this pitch that, oh, but we are building data centers in Finland. That's super good. We are building data centers here, so be happy. Bulk infrastructure. Finnish government is so wrong there that they are cheering for these data centers. Come on, guys. It's a storage room. And then they are moving their data from Europe to China and to the United States, and they are developing their technologies there. How naive you must be not to see through that. Everyone who works on technology must understand that. If you have innovative company, if you have innovative technology, for sure there will be a data center. But we do it other way around. From the European Commission, the idea is that you regulate, then you put public subsidies to this kind of a bulk infrastructure, and what's happening? Then our best innovative companies are sold to the United States because there they can enter from Delaware, go to the whole market once, and they can have as much risk financing as they can. All this we are lacking here in Europe. And that's why we have good companies, and we have companies that would have that possibility to grow. But now what we need to do is look into our private sector. Private capital is the solution, not public subsidies. And also, it cannot be the answer from the EU every time that we will regulate. Henna Virkkunen will be here this week from the Commission, and she will tell you that, oh, no, now we will innovate. But ask her, will you propose a new regulation on Digital Fairness Act? Oh, yes, we will. Will you propose something new on connectivity? Oh, yes, we will. So you will regulate even more? Yes, we will. That will be the answer from the Commission. And you need to challenge that. We all need to challenge that. Because now it's not time to more regulation, it's time for deregulation. And yes, I understand if you deregulate, you might end up messing up with the market in a short period. But with AI Act, for example, now, which we are trying to enforce, not even the best companies and best lawyers can understand how to enforce that. How can that be good for our market? Well, but this week actually, there is a momentum from the Commission They will propose this kind of a digital omnibus that they will deregulate at least something. Some of you might have been working on the GDPR. That will be a big momentum for GDPR because we are expecting that they might touch bases on Article 4, 6 and 9, super technical, super detailed, but actually that's where you actually regulate personal data, meaning that in the GDPR nowadays, literally almost everything can be tracked back to personal data. And that's a problem because we need to also understand that not all data is personal. There is behavioral data and metadata that we need now to train our technologies in the EU as well. So let's put the policy and these regulatory details on side and let's focus more on comprehensive security approach. Because yes, it's about competitiveness. Yes, it's about our companies to be able to grow, but it's also about security. Kill switch. Everyone knows what happened with Microsoft this year. I think we will thank Microsoft one day that they actually helped us to build European technological sovereignty. Why? Because they blocked access to this international criminal court's prosecutor, and that's a huge thing. That was a political choice from the company. That was a political choice from the company, and it's a huge deal. It should have been all over the news even more than it was. That just tells us the story that an American company that we are heavily dependent on can block access to our emails. European Union institutions, Finnish government, Irish government, German government, French government, we are all using Microsoft software. Cybersecurity, cloud. We are heavily dependent on American company, on our critical infrastructure. How can this be? Would this be happening in China, in Russia, in the United States? No, they would never be this naive, but we are. We need to now put our companies first from Europe. And our public sector needs to put our companies first in Europe. We need to switch to European providers. And yes, now you are telling me that, oh, but it's so expensive and it's so difficult to find software and cloud and cyber in one package. Yes, but it will be even more difficult if they cut access to our software if something happens between the United States and Europe. So we need to make this change. There is a public procurement directive from the EU, so actually we could build in there that you need to choose European. Yes, you then need to define what is European, how much European, because there are these dependencies, and I would say it takes 5 to 10 years to get rid of that. But we need to do it today, because yesterday it would have been better, tomorrow is too late. But that's huge for European companies. And I hope that this last week will actually promote those European solutions ever more so that our public sector and private sector can find European companies to replace Microsoft. I just had a call with a couple of Finnish municipalities that Microsoft raised prices, increased their prices 20-30%. Yet again, they do that every time they renew their contract. It's a huge amount of money. And we could put it back to European economy. And we could, at the same time, think about this comprehensive security approach. So I think that would be a bold move, but it's something that we can do. I have changed my mind completely. Yes, I worked for Zuckerberg for years. And back in the days, I believed that there needs to be transatlantic data ecosystem. Because otherwise, Europe has already lost this game with data. So we need United States. And we do. We definitely do right now. And yes, there needs to be cooperation, absolutely. We do cooperation with many other continents, many other countries. But there shouldn't be one-side dependency with the United States. There needs to be reciprocity with China, with United States. How I see it is that Europe needs to stand on our own, and then we do trade deals with other third-party countries. And I would treat United States also as one. So I'm a reservist from one NATO country, and I fully understand how important it is, this dependency with the United States also, that they will keep supporting us when it comes to Ukraine. So I'm not naive. That's why the Commission is spending and still having these ties with the United States government, because we actually need their help in Ukraine, absolutely. But what comes to NATO, Europe needs to wake up, like really, that we need to have European NATO. And what we are doing right now in Brussels is as well that we are developing our defense technologies. And yes, dual use is important because same technologies are used in private sector and in public sector, but we don't have one harmonized market for that still. It's even super difficult to move one chemical across borders in the EU. And when I'm looking at Ukraine, I know that these Silicon Valley companies, they have been helping a lot with their technology and like drone development, for example, there. And that's much needed still. That's why we are working with the United States. But our end game and goal should be that we have European NATO, and we have European tech sovereignty. We have our own companies and we put them first. And then we do cooperation, transatlantic cooperation. With China, cooperation needs to be also based on reciprocity, otherwise I would not do that. And with China, we have been so naive for such a long time. So there I would be even more strict, and I would even ban some of the companies from European market, because it's not that they will spy us through TikTok, but it is that we are handing our data to this government that I would never ever want to support. So that being said, I would say that our companies, I hope this week in SLAS, would fight for these things in the EU. They would get to know the EU a little bit better, because I have so many CEOs, I have so many tech people telling me always that, oh my God, the European Union is so boring, all these articles, it's so far away, we literally don't care. And then there is AI regulation coming, 300 pages, not even the best lawyers can read it, but it has a huge effect and impact to these companies. You cannot develop your technology without understanding what are the restrictions. So that's a huge deal for our companies. And also, if you would fight a little bit harder with me on the GDPR, how we could fine-tune that, we could actually make miracles, I believe. And it's not so difficult. There are MEPs who are fighting this for you, who you have voted there from different countries. And yeah, there are not so many who are so keen on tech, but I definitely am. And it's my mission to help also Europe to succeed. That being said, I will come to my final point, and I want to leave room for a couple of questions. I came in and people are always asking me, like, two things are now on the table. Do you want to try these VR classes? And second thing is that, have you heard that we are building data center in Finland? These are the two things that I sometimes laugh a little bit. First of all, as I said about data centers, it's a bulk infrastructure for me. You come here because there is a cheap electricity in Finland. If you are building a big data ecosystem with European and Finnish companies around these data centers, please be welcome. But if you only come here to build a storage room with 50 people employed, I'm not really interested. Don't fool me, so to say. Then these VR classes, when I walk out, I would love to have those kind of classes that I don't have to put on if I put makeup and my hair. I just laughed this to my assistants. When I was with Meta, we needed to have all our meetings in Metaverse. And I was promoting heavily Metaverse 3 years. And I always say, it's one Metaverse whenever I speak with anyone in Brussels or Strasbourg, because there is no, there are no internets. Okay, there is Chinese internet, Russian internet, but I hope that we would have one Metaverse, like we have one internet. And how I see it, it's like this Internet 2.0 or beyond, that people would understand finally also in policy field and more openly, that how I see Metaverse is that it's it would be like this kind of a new way of living, that you can go through this door and have coffee with your friends from Luxembourg, and then you can go through this door and you can have a lecture at Harvard University, and then you go through this door and you can see Anne Frank's house in Amsterdam. and you are living in this virtual reality where everything is possible and you can bring together the best engineers to develop motors or cars or best surgeon to do different surgeries. So for me, it has been reality already so many years that I feel that sometimes it's like media and society is lacking a little bit behind, where already many companies were not only in tech field but in different fields are living. So I really appreciate the work that you are doing there, but I hope that soon we will have those classes that are reflecting diamonds. If anyone is listening to this TED Talks on future of metaverse, I'm looking forward to that, so I don't have to put those glasses on. But this is the reality where I came back to Brussels and trying to combine this future view of metaverse and how companies are already living that reality, and then Brussels, who is thinking like how to regulate AI and regulate away a risk. It's very different realities. So that's why we don't have these big tech companies in Europe right now, because we have been over-regulating and not enabling. And that's something that I hope that you will help me to change in a wider mindset of Europeans, because we can do that. I can see that now I still have some time for questions. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Salla. I very much appreciate you and everything that you have done. My name is Fuad Alwari. I have had the pleasure of learning from Tina Wario on a metropolia throughout my life. But nowadays I represent AI Innovation Fund, a global concept that aims to achieve AI independence. I ask you, we in Europe, we are directing our investments in two directions. What do you see wrong there? Are we investing in the right direction?
So the question was that are we investing the right directions? No, we are not. The problem is that it's too local. We are still leaning towards bank loans so much in the EU. We don't have these big angel investors. We have a quite good venture capital field, I would say, but it's quite local. So that's a problem, because we think locally, then we should think European-wide. And I know it's difficult because we don't really have this one market, but that's how we would actually help our companies to grow to be global, if we would put our eggs to the same basket and we would help our private investors to take more risk. Because answer from the Commission is always let's put more public subsidies. First of all, there is not enough money in a public taxpayers' money's basket. Second of all is that then we don't think big enough. If you are comparing the US, for example. So that's something that I would rather enable, that we would have one capital market where risk money would go cross borders much more. So to that question, I would say that no, we are not doing the right things in that sense. And the second thing is, repeating myself a little bit, I think we are investing too much on this bulk infrastructure. We should think big. We should have this kind of a risk funds that would finance our companies 10 to 15 years, because it will take that long if you actually have an innovative company. And that's the problem. We see maybe 5, 8 years, but then when you go beyond, that's something that Europe is still lacking, I would say. Anyone else? Please.
Hi, Alka. It's Jussi. I actually voted for you. My wife recommended. My question is actually a little bit related to politics. So I think it was 2 weeks ago when there was a decision that the election data from Finnish elections go to Amazon Web Services this week. So what is your stand on that?
Well, you can see my face. How naive we have to be. I think it's outrageous how we are treating our data. You need to understand how valuable data is, right? That's something that these Silicon Valley companies understood like 20, 30 years ago. And it's not like in Europe we tend to talk about private data and that's super secured. I try to take my children's like a vaccine record to Belgium from Finland. Impossible, impossible. But then it's okay for everyone to use TikTok and have our electronic data in an American cloud and so on. So the data ownership is the problem. I should have access to my own data and I should be able to move it wherever I want, in my opinion. And then there needs to be wider understanding how critical infrastructure functions. When one day these American companies are ordered by the White House that you need to stop Europeans to having access to these cloud services, they will have to do it. If you ask from Google, Amazon, Apple, Meta, like they need to always respect their home base, their laws in the United States. And I'm sorry, some people are telling me, oh, Aura, but don't worry, Democrats will come and they will win the next election in the United States. Excuse me. So we should hold a breath here in the EU when you have a better government. And once Vance is coming to a power in the United States, what do we do then? Like, how naive we have to be. So I would really now put European companies first in that sense that yes, it might be a little bit more expensive right now to choose European cloud. And actually there are many options for European cloud. But in the long run, it will pay back. What comes to this comprehensive security approach that President Niinistö, our former president in Finland, has also been writing about. So there is no balance in that way that we are very thoughtful what comes to this personal data, and then at the same time the door is open for Chinese and Americans to come. So that's my thinking. I think we are super, super naive. And maybe adding one thing there, because I understand, if you are a small town in Finland, and then there are Chinese investors coming and, we will build a data center here. And there is cash right here. And, you will have 50 employees here in the storage room. It's very difficult to say no. I fully understand that. But at the same time, I think the governments in the EU must act and make these municipalities also understand that in the long run, it's much better to choose European. It might now need some stick instead of carrots, but I think it will pay us back. Sorry for being so gloomy. I need to maybe talk about something more cheerful next. Please.
My name is Janset and I'm from Metropolia Helsinki XR Center, so maybe that's the question. What kind of advantage do we have and what kind of positive steps, what can we take?
That's a really good question. I hope to have something more a little bit cheerful. We have talent, don't get me wrong. We have plenty of talent in the EU. One thing that I think we are lacking of is self-confidence and hungerness, I remember, and I see Nokia there also, that, we had plenty of engineers leaving the company, and, but they were quite settled because, they got quite good packages leaving the company, and then they had a nice cottage and so on. If they would have been in the United States, they would maybe have built 10 new companies, right? Because in the United States, the mindset is different. They have this hungerness of building something new and growing the company. Here you grow a company and then you sell it to the United States and then you live nicely. And that's something I would change, right? To be a little bit more ambitious and a little bit more hunger for growth. And also that the journey is something that you want to live. It's not like, now I have 20 million, I'm fine, I'm all settled. When I was 15, I joined a political party and I thought I want to be a foreign minister of Finland one day. That was my dream. I never thought that I will fail so many times. I never thought that I will work for a social media company. I didn't see what is coming. But I think the journey has been the best opportunity for me. I'm much more credible in my 40s to talk to you about these things, that I have done different things. My God, thank God I didn't get elected in my 20s. I would be so annoying. Maybe I'm that still today, but I mean, you need to enjoy the ride. So that's something I would say to Europeans, like enjoy the ride and don't think that you settle then when you get that 20 million, right? And also, one thing that I think it's, when I was leading the office in Brussels for Meta, and I had like 17 different nationalities, and COVID started. And then the company was like, okay, fine, you can work from Spain, you can work from Austria, you can work from Sweden. My God, after 6 months, we realized, oh my God, they are paying double taxes, you know, it's super difficult, pensions, employment schemes. So it was a mess. And only then you realize that, yes, you might have talent in Europe, but don't move. Like more, it gets so difficult. So that's something that the European Union needs to get right, because yes, you have a free, you can move freely, but it doesn't really work in practice. So I would say that we need to enable our talent to move. Did you know that only 4% of Europeans live and work in another country than where they are from? That's like, you know, if you're looking at the United States again, people move because work is now in Minnesota and now it's in New York and now it's in Chicago, so you move. But in Europe, you build your house and you buy your car and this is my like place and you settle. So it's a very different mindset. But still, that being said, I would encourage people to move more, go to another country, learn languages, because it will give you so much more. So we have all these good things in Europe, like secured societies and pension funds, and to some extent, like free education, in some countries at least. So there are plenty of good things, but I would like to shake Europeans a little bit and say that, you know, like bring back that hungerness that we had after the Second World War, that we would make this European, like a big tech companies happen, and the reality for people to work in one united European Union. Anything else?
Biggest passions. Salla, what do you say about passion intohimo ajatella suuresti? Mikä on sun viesti suomalaisille?
So my message about my passion. I go often to the United States still, and I give lectures in Harvard, and I'm going back there in February again. And there are normally students from all over the world, and I can see that when I have a Chinese student, my God, they have this, you know, eagerness of learning everything, and you know, being really a straight A student. And then you have people from all over the world, but I can see that these Americans who are born and bred there, they have more of this kind of a thinking that, you know, I will try out, and if I don't succeed, I don't care, I will try again. And this is maybe something that I think, I ran 3 times in the European Parliament elections because that was my huge dream. And when I failed yet again 2019, and I was so beaten, I thought that I will never make it. And there are many things in life, and you feel like you are so down, and you can easily go and, you know, I could have stayed with Meta, nice salary, you know, interesting company, blah, 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 blah. And I think my father is still thinking, why did you go to politics? I mean, but you need to have that passion. And that's something that I think that Europeans are a little bit lacking. And I think that's a change of mindset that we should have. That in Finland we say that we have kympin tyttö. It's like straight A student, that, you know, everything goes by the book, and the whole life goes by the book. And it's like European regulation, and it's like European Union and Finnish government. Everything goes like this. But maybe sometimes we need these disruptions, that something comes outside of the box and shakes things up, and then something new and innovative comes, right? You can see that I have worked in a Silicon Valley company because that's the mindset that you have in that kind of a company, that take a risk, think outside of the box. And I think in Europe we have this momentum right now. We have war in this continent, and to win that war we need to think outside of the box. And when we build this like new defense in Europe, we need new technologies. that's another point, a turning point, I think, for our companies to develop something completely new. And then the third thing, I think, is metaverse. It is something that it's really difficult to talk about because I can see that many people in the audience, they are like, okay, what is this metaverse? It is like a new internet, but it's the reality where you are living. And I think that's one opportunity that Europeans should and could take right now. So shake things up and take a risk. And when you fall down, just try again. That would be something that I would say.